Stand back. Just my thoughts are coming through. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Erick Coughlin. This is my podcast, Just My Thoughts. For all you new viewers out there who don't know much about what's going on here, I'll explain that to you real quick. So this is a podcast based on exactly how I think and how I feel on respected sports. Sometimes you might get a little bit of movie stuff in there. I might drop in a game knowledge here or there, but essentially I wrap everything up based on sports, and I try to generate overall sports knowledge. As you can see in the background, I'm a huge Chicago fan. I love the Bulls. I love the Bears. I love the Blackhawks. I love the White Sox. I'm a Chicago guy. However, I'm not just a Chicago guy. I'm a huge sports fanatic. So I try to cover widespread, the things that are hot, things that are needed to be talked about, and then things that probably no one even hears about that I just feel like, hey, I should wrap things up for these guys and give them an idea of what's going on in the sports world. So that's what I do. This is a podcast. It's not necessarily a sports podcast. It's not necessarily a movie podcast. This is just a podcast wrapped around my thoughts. So that sums up what we do on my show. For those of you watching, I appreciate you. For those who are brand new to it, hit the like, hit the subscribe, keep me going. So that being said, we're going to jump into today's segment of Just My Thoughts. What we're going to do is break down top 10 most overlooked quarterbacks in the NFL. That is the main agenda on the thought tracker today. So that's what we're going to do. Now let's get started. So, number one guy, in my opinion, that's the most overlooked guy in the NFL has to be Nick Foles. Absolutely right. Nick Foles is the most overlooked quarterback in the NFL, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Nick Foles has won 2 Super Bowls. In case you ain't know that, you know that now. And on top of that, not only just winning 2 Super Bowls isn't good enough, he was the MVP of the first one that he won. So that's pretty awesome. Another thing that you might not know, his career QBR, that's right, I'm going to drop in everybody on this list. I'm dropping 10 career QBRs. So just follow up and pay attention to what I'm telling you. Nick Foles' career QBR is at 86, which is pretty good, right? That's, if you use the roundup situation, if you round up, he's basically 90. So that means he's, about an A minus or a B plus plus kind of guy. In my standards, the way I look at Nick Foles, I give him an A plus plus. I would say that 90 is good enough. The 86 is good enough to round to 90. And I'd say that the fact that he's already won 2 Super Bowls in his life, I'd say he's an A plus kind of guy. And here's another thing, that not only just going to the Super Bowl twice, he's won his division both times. So this is essentially what you get on a Nick Foles. If you have a good year, if he wins his division, odds are he's very likely to go to the Super Bowl. And if that does happen, the odds are also this. Not only would you go to the Super Bowl, you're going to win the Super Bowl. He's been to 2. He's won 2. He's undefeated. They are a million guys out there in the sports world that strive their whole entire career to try to make the Super Bowl and then don't even do it. He's done it twice, and he doesn't even have a starting job in the NFL. What? Nick Foles is not a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's won 2 Super Bowls. That is why he's the most overlooked guy in the NFL. I miss you, Nick. I appreciate what you did in this league, and I wish you would have stuck around in Chicago. Unfortunately, we don't need you anymore because of Justin Fields. And maybe you should have stuck around anyway as a backup, because we just got a backup this year. If you would have stuck around, we would have never even had that problem to begin with. But, I wish this guy gets a starting job somewhere else. He deserves a chance. There's 5 NFL teams right now searching for quarterbacks. Of those 5, there are 4 of them expected to draft quarterbacks, and then you got a guy like Nick Foles who doesn't even have a job. That's extremely sad. Nick Foles, you're great. Don't let anyone else tell you that you're not. Okay, that being said, number 2, who's the number 2 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL? I'm going to stick right here in Chicago. I just told you guys I'm a Chicago guy, so we're not going anywhere just yet. How about Mitchell Trubisky being the 2nd most overlooked quarterback in the NFL? Now, if you're watching this, you're like, oh my God, first of all, Nick, now you're giving me Mitch, what the hell? Here's what the hell. So first of all, Mitch Trubisky's overall quarterback rating for his career is 86. Essentially the same exact career QBR as Nick Foles. Outside of that, he's won our division when he was our starter in 2018. A lot of people don't understand this, and a lot of people don't remember this, but we had a very legitimate shot at going to the Super Bowl that was, shanked by Cody Parkey. And the whole time, Mitchell Trubisky was the man. He was the one underneath the helm. He started, all 16 games that year. He made the Pro Bowl that year. And he got eliminated in the first round because of a bad kick. That's the truth. The truth is, if that kick would have went down, we probably would have advanced to the second round. He probably would have won, and then advanced again, and then advanced again. You would have been looking at 2018 Super Bowl champions, the Chicago Bears. That did not happen because of Cody Parkey, not because of Mitchell Trubisky. Again, Mitchell Trubisky's numbers for his career: 86 QBR, one division win, but he's only been a starter in this league under us. So when we got rid of him, he went down to Buffalo Bills, became the backup to Josh Allen. Then lost that job, ended up going to Pittsburgh where he would fight for his starting job, and then essentially got ruled out because they drafted a quarterback that they were expected to start before the Mitch Trubisky thing ever happened. So this is essentially what happened in Pittsburgh last year. They already was committed to drafting their quarterback, and they were already committed to starting that quarterback. And then they're like, well, we could get Mitch for pretty cheap. Maybe he can come in here and win some games. He did that. He came in there. He won the starting job. He actually did win the games that Pittsburgh had put together, good drives, and won. They were won underneath Mitchell Trubisky, so just keep that in mind. And again, he is a Pro Bowl quarterback. So, I don't know how many Pro Bowl quarterbacks we've had in Chicago. I should have, done some more homework, some more research, and done that. I don't know. I would say we haven't had many. I would assume Jay Cutler has done it. But that's an assumption. Because, I loved the guy. He was great. But, that doesn't necessarily mean just because I love him, he was in the Pro Bowl, right? So, I don't know how many Pro Bowl quarterbacks we did have. I do know that Mitchell Trubisky made it. And anyone that can win the NFC North, anyone that can go to the Pro Bowl, and anyone that could, pretty much play premier underneath all pressure. He come into Chicago not knowing who was going to be the guy. It became him. He went into Pittsburgh not knowing who was going to be the guy. It became him. And then he lost his job. However, no matter what the league throws at Mitchell Trubisky keeps his head tight. He buckles down. He plays hard, and he wins games. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL. Right now, he's playing as a backup, which is ridiculous because, again, I'm going to restate this without repeating myself too many times. There are 5 teams looking for quarterbacks, and you got guys like Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky who are not starting quarterbacks. That is a serious problem for me as a football fan because even though they're not Bears anymore, I would like to see ex-Bears be successful. So I would like to see both of those guys get starting jobs and compete in the league and show everybody, hey, we're still here. So that being said, Mitchell Trubisky, you are the number 2 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL. Sorry, bud. Wish you were stuck around. Really, essentially, again, I love Justin Fields, but if my quarterback room was filled with the last 3 quarterbacks I had, Justin Fields being the starter, Mitchell Trubisky being number 2, Nick Foles being number 3, I'd be the happiest man in the world. Why? Because that means no matter what happens, I've got a quarterback that can win the game. If Justin goes down, you bring in Mitch. Mitch goes down, you bring in Nick. What are the odds you lose 3 quarterbacks in 1 year? Not very often. So, that being said, I wish they were both still with me. Even if they were backups, I would know that my winning percentage is up, skyrocketed. It's through the roof. I would have nothing to fear with all 3 of them being in my quarterback room, but I don't. So for those who do have those quarterbacks in their quarterback room, I'd advise you this. Use them. Don't waste them. They are premier quarterbacks. Number 3. The number 3 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. Again, this is just my thoughts, and I am Erick Coughlin, so this is how I think and how I feel as an NFL fan of what's going on in the NFL world. Number 3 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL is Baker Mayfield. What? Why Baker Mayfield? Well, first of all, why not Baker Mayfield? Let me tell you something. His career QBR, again, so a lot of these guys essentially are going to have the same QBR, but in different careers, different paths, different ways it all played out. It is what it is, but I didn't create the system, but I do respect it. I do like it. I enjoy the system. The system tells me things that I need to know as a sports fan, so I respect it. But again, okay, Baker Mayfield's career quarterback rating is 86. 86, are you just saying that? No, I'm not just saying that. Like I said, I didn't make the rating system. The rating system made itself. His rating is at 86, which is still, again, close enough to 90, close enough to give him an A plus as a starting quarterback. Now, here's things that are interesting about Baker Mayfield. So, he's entering his 4th year of his career, and he's also entering his 4th team of his career. So, you'd say, well, if he's been bounced around, how come you believe in him? Well, let me tell you something. I'm 35 years old. I have been watching football all my life, back and forth, even as a kid in Chicago with my uncles. But primarily understanding football, playing football for teams and understanding things. So about the age of 13 to 35, so 22 years, I've been watching football. I've been understanding football. I've been breaking down football. Let me tell you something. I've only seen 2 people. Yeah, 2. See that? I'm not throwing up the piece. I'm counting. 1, 2 quarterbacks in NFL history in my lifetime of what I just said, 22 years of watching NFL. I've seen 2 quarterbacks take the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Jeff Garcia in 1999, and then Baker Mayfield twice. What? I said twice. Baker Mayfield brought the Browns to the playoffs twice, in 2019 and in 2020. He had brought the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl. And that being said, I do believe Baker Mayfield may have made the Pro Bowl the 2020 season. He almost won his division that year. Pittsburgh got lucky and they beat him out by 1 game. Literally, Baker Mayfield was 1 game away for winning the AFC North. Just think about that. You're like, what's so special about that? What's not so special about that? That's a very respected division. The Cleveland Browns for years have been trash, but now they're extremely good. They're really, really good. Outside of that, here's 3 teams that haven't been trash at all. And in 25 years, 25 years that I've been watching and understanding football, I understand this. The Baltimore Ravens are extremely good. Defensively, offensively, they are sound. They have been sound for as long as I've been watching. How about this? Cincinnati Bengals, also again aggressive, very sound, very athletic, very respected franchise. So there you go. And then if that wasn't enough about that franchise, you also got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, the Steel Curtain. They're the most storied franchise outside of Chicago Bears that you can get. Everyone, their history speaks for themselves. The Steel Curtain, that was before my lifetime, and I know about it just as a sports fan. So that's just what I'm telling you. Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, very serious franchise teams. That Baker Mayfield came in as a young talent and walked the dog all over for 2 years. So why did he lose his job? I don't know. I'm not the Cleveland Browns owner. I'm not the Cleveland Browns coach. All I can say is this. The Cleveland Browns are freaking morons for letting this guy walk out the door. He is the 3rd most overlooked quarterback in the NFL, Baker Mayfield. I think you're going to do great in your career. I think you may have found a home to stay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a very easy division for you to win, very easy division for you to be competitive. And I'm just going to spit these numbers out now. This is just what I think. Again, this is just my thoughts. This is how I feel about Baker Mayfield. I think he's going into that division for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to get the starting job. He's going to win that division, maybe 11. The way the league's changed now, it used to be 11-5. I think it's 11-6 now. I'm going to say he's going to go in there as 11-6, and maybe even 10-7, and still win that division, still go to the playoffs, make some noise. I'm going to say 3,200 yards in the air. I'm going to say 24 touchdowns with only 8 interceptions. I'm going to say his interception to touchdown ratio are going to be 3-1, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. I think he's very phenomenal, and I think he's going to show the whole world and then finally get paid. I'd like to see the kid sign a 5-year, $64 million contract and quit competing for a starting job. He deserves to be a starting quarterback for not just next year, for his whole career. Anybody to bring the Browns to the playoffs deserves to start, no matter where they go. I'm sorry that the world has turned their back on you, Baker, but I have not. You're the 3rd most overlooked quarterback in the NFL by my standard. Number 4, we're going to get to a vet. What? I said we're going to get to a vet. Why would you talk about old bones? What if their bones ain't old? How about Joe Flacco for the number 4 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL? What's so special about Joe Flacco? Well, I'll tell you what's so special about Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's career QBR is actually lower than the last 3 guys I've named. His career QBR is at 84. But here's something that he's done that the other guys that I've named have not done. He's won his division twice in the AFC North, where I just got done talking about. I'm going to continue to talk about just for a little bit, then we'll be moving forward again. So starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens for essentially 9 years. In the 9 years, he goes to the playoffs 6 times in 9 years, wins the division twice, and he also wins a Super Bowl. In case you didn't know that, the last time the Baltimore Ravens have competed in a Super Bowl was under Joe Flacco. So 84 quarterback rating QBR. I know that doesn't sound like it's an outstanding number, but again, he's had to deal with injuries. He's had to deal with the cold weather. He's had to deal with hard-hitting defenses. He's had a lot thrown at him in his career, and he still knows how to win games. So, Joe Flacco, if you're up to it, bud, I wish you the best. I hope you find a starting job this year, just for your legacy's sake. I hope that somebody like maybe Atlanta Falcons throw their names in the hat and be like, hey, this division's quietly getting good. Baker Mayfield's, he come to town, and Derek Carr, he's come to town. The Atlanta Falcons absolutely have a need for a starting quarterback. Instead of drafting one, Atlanta, you need to call Joe Flacco and give him a shot. Here's the thing: you have absolutely nothing to lose, right? Because if you draft a rookie, odds are you're probably only going to win 3 or 4 games. So if you go out and get Joe Flacco, instead of winning 3 or 4 games, you have a standing chance. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but you have a standing chance of being competitive and winning that division. Like I just noted a minute ago, that's the easiest division in the NFL. What? I said, and I say it again, the easiest division to win in the NFL. So, if I were the Atlanta Falcons, I'd be calling Joe Flacco and begging him to come to town. How you doing, Joe? You've made number 4 on my list as the most overlooked quarterback in the league. How you doing? Number 5. Number 5 is going to be Marcus Mariota, who actually just left that division that I've been talking about. Marcus Mariota is actually got an outstanding QBR for so far of all listed. I've listed 386s and I've listed 884. Now I'm going to list an 89. That's right. He's got an 89 quarterback rating as a starting quarterback. This is something else that he's done that none of the other guys that I've listed has. He's won his division 3 times with the Tennessee Titans. He brought the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs 3 times. He's made 1 Pro Bowl. And essentially, the guy, I don't understand what's going on with a guy like Marcus Mariota. Like I said, he's a winning quarterback. He got drafted to Tennessee, played there for 4 or 5 years. In year 5, he lost his job, got traded out. Ryan Tannehill come to town, stole his job, so then he got traded to Atlanta Falcons and just couldn't get, here's the thing. He only played in Atlanta for 1 year and almost made playoffs. They were 1 game out of the playoffs last year. A lot of people don't know that, so if you don't know that, you know that now. You're welcome. Again, Atlanta Falcons were 1 game out of the playoffs last year underneath Marcus Mariota, and yet they didn't re-sign the guy. So you got a guy that knows how to win, knows how to play, has the highest QBR of the last 5 quarterbacks that I've listed, and has probably the most winning percentage of the last 5 guys that I've just listed, and yet he still doesn't have a job. So what's going on with him? I don't know. Do I wish I knew? Absolutely, I wished I knew. I think he's a winning quarterback. I think of the teams of the 5 teams that need a starting quarterback, that's the Atlanta Falcons, who just lost him, so that don't make sense at all. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts, which that might make sense because he's already played in that division. If the Colts really wanted somebody that knew how to win that division, they would have to look no further than, Marcus Mariota. He could come into town and change things around very, very fast, very quick. Like I said, that's the division he played in. That's the division he knows. He understands the defenses. He understands the personnel. It would be a perfect fit for the Indianapolis Colts to sign a guy like Marcus Mariota. But if that didn't go down, even in that same division, I know I've been doing that a lot. I've been starting in the division and kind of staying there, and I don't even mean to. It just kind of naturally happens. It's the way my mind just, circles around and precedes itself. The Houston Texans have no idea what they're going to do. Actually, I think they know what they're going to do. They're looking to, draft C.J. Stroud, so they're not really concerned about a quarterback. But again, a quarterback that understands the division is priceless. Why would you risk drafting a quarterback and starting a quarterback when you've got a winning quarterback dying to be paid. So if I were the Houston Texans, if I were the Indianapolis Colts, if I wanted to compete and change the direction of my team in my division, I would only have to make one phone call, and that is Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, you are the number 5 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL by my standard. Number 6. We're halfway there. We're almost done. Number 6 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL, by my opinion, would have to be Jameis Winston. Now, this actually is the most interesting of all 6 quarterbacks that I just listed. He should be number 1, but I absolutely love Nick Foles. I'm a huge Nick Foles fan. That's why Nick Foles is number 1. You have to understand that. But number 6, Jameis Winston, he has done things that no one on this list has done. His career QBR is the highest, a 91 career QBR. That's incredible. What else is incredible about Jameis Winston? Why do you like him so much? Didn't he play in your division? Yes, he did with the Minnesota Vikings. It's where he got drafted and played and started his career in Minnesota. You know what he done in 2019? How about he led the league in passing yards? What? Jameis Winston led the league in passing yards? Absolutely. That's a real fact. That really did happen. He's a really, really tough competitor. Here's the things that he knows how to do. He knows how to scramble around the pocket without getting sacked. He knows how to move the chains without blinking his eyes. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He can trick you. He can fake you out. He can pump fake. Man, pump faking is something that you don't see a lot in the NFL. You used to see it a lot in the 90s, right? Brett Favre was famous for it. Brett Favre would make you think he's going one way, then he'd go another way. Jameis Winston does that. So Jameis Winston essentially is like Brett Favre 3.0. What? Why'd you say 3.0? Well, I skipped 2.0 because he's so much better. He's 3 times better than Brett Favre. That's why he's 3.0 of Brett Favre. Like I said, he led the league in passing yards in 2019. He made Pro Bowl twice in his career, and he's just an absolute stud. So the last few years, he's been floating around the league. He landed a backup job in New Orleans underneath Drew, and then when Drew left, he became the guy. But then he got hurt, right? And then New Orleans was like, oh, what are we going to do? So New Orleans kind of turned their back on him, and they picked up a guy, Andy Dalton. They picked up Andy Dalton, who became their starter last year. So he's got a lot of time left to play. I should know this without a doubt, without having to think, but I'm just guessing here. I'm thinking he got drafted in 2017 was his rookie year. He played in Minnesota for like 3 years, and then he left town. So that being said, he is actually, I might be getting ahead of myself. Jameis Winston might have been drafted by Tampa Bay Buccaneers and played there for a few years, and then New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston might not have ever been in Minnesota, so I apologize for that. However, he's still, everything else has been directly on point with what I just said. Jameis Winston, you are the number 6 quarterback of most overlooked quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm sorry that you can't find a job. I think it's incredible things that you've done. 91 QBR, that's incredible. Leading the league in passing yards. Now, a lot of people say, well, that could be overrated. What if he threw a 10-yard pass and the receiver, ran all the way up the field? Listen, I understand things like that happen, but I also understand this. You don't make it to 4,000 yards in a season. You don't make over 3,200 yards in a season by throwing 10-yard ins and outs. You know what I'm saying? This guy's launching the ball 20 yards, 22 yards per pass. Quite possibly, he could probably stretch out the field. I'd say he can bomb out 60, 70 yards. Definitely, as I already said, can move the chains. If you get, pressure, you think you're going to sack the guy, you better think twice. He's got strong legs. He's got a lot of speed. Jameis Winston can make anybody look bad on any given Sunday. That is the truth, and that's why he's number 6 on the list. Now, number 7. Number 7 happens to be Teddy Bridgewater, and that's why I was getting mixed up. So Teddy Bridgewater makes number 7 on the list, and actually Bridgewater was the one that I was talking about that played in Minnesota. So Now that I'm clarifying that up, I wasn't trying to falsify my information to all my viewers. I have to apologize. I was just getting a little bit ahead of myself, and I was mixing my story a little bit. But Teddy Bridgewater, he was the one that got drafted by Minnesota in 2017, then lost his job a few years later. He lost his job. Case Keenum come to town, took his job from him. After Case Keenum took his job, Case Keenum lost that job to Kirk Cousins, and the rest is in the history books. Everyone knows Kirk's been in town for, I think this is going to be his 4th year in Minnesota, and he's probably going to sign a contract extension. He's probably going to retire in Minnesota. Let's just be honest. Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback, very solid numbers every year of his career, but he is getting old, so he'll be leaving. Like I said, maybe 3 or 4 years he'll be ready for retirement. But this is not about Kirk Cousins. This is about Teddy Bridgewater. So Teddy Bridgewater, he has done this. He has won the division of the NFC North. What? That's right. He has won the NFC North division, the toughest division in football, by my opinion, and pretty much by the world's opinion. I don't care how everyone plays, the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions. When it comes to defense, regardless of what any of our records are, all 4 of us bring it. On the defensive side of the ball, we all have solid defenses. Everyone knows that. It's been situations where, like, we do just, okay, think about just last year with the Bears. For instance, the Bears have only won 3 games last year, but the 13 games that they lost, 9 out of the 13 were only 1-score games. So that being said, it's not easy to win in the NFC North. The fact that Teddy Bridgewater has come to the NFC North as a young player and win that division, playing against the likes of Jay Cutler, playing against the likes of Aaron Rodgers, and playing against the likes of Matthew Stafford, and coming out the winner of that division is an eye-opener. So, Teddy Bridgewater, you are my number 7 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL. Oh, and by the way, Teddy Bridgewater, his career QBR, in case I forgot to mention his career QBR, is 89, so it's right up there with 91 with Jameis Winston. He's right up there with Jameis. They're almost essentially the same exact guy, and that's why I got my story mixed up a little bit. But all in all, if you take Teddy Bridgewater, you take Jameis Winston, it wouldn't matter who you want. If either one of you got either one of those guys, you got a hell of a guy. So, Teddy Bridgewater, you made number 7 on my list. And a Pro Bowl. It is what it is. Okay, so everyone on this list, except for my last quarterback that I'll name number 10, has made at least 1 Pro Bowl in their career. So that's another reason why all these guys are on my list, except for number 10. We'll get to that last. First of all, here's the truth about the Pro Bowl. It's not that easy to make it, right? You got 32 teams in the NFL. So the starters of the Super Bowls, they don't go. So you go ahead and scratch off their quarterback rooms. So you knock off 2 of the 32 starters. That leaves you with 30 starters. And then, so of those 30 starters, you primarily get 4 guys, right? So the NFC will take 2 of them, one to play the first half, one to play the second half. AFC will take 2 of them, 1.5, first half, second half, blah, 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 repeating itself. That's how it works. So if you got guys on this list that have made the Pro Bowl, that means they had the opportunity to beat out 28 other guys. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty ecstatic, especially when everyone on this list that I have named so far doesn't have a starting job. All of them. I've given you, what I just give you, 7 guys so far? So 7 guys that have all made the Pro Bowl are looking for a starting job in the NFL. Is that not a serious problem when you've got 5 teams looking to draft quarterbacks this year? So 5 teams looking for quarterbacks, and I listed 7 of them that don't have a starting job, that all won Pro Bowls. Just think about that for a minute. And while you're thinking about that, let me holler at number 8 on my list. Now, number 8 on my list just paid a really big bag for a really short time. But he's been in the league for a decade. So he's played for 10 years and he's just now getting the bag. Well, who are you talking about? I'm talking about Geno Smith as my number 8th most overlooked quarterback for all those reasons of which I just stated. Geno Smith has been in the league for 10 years. He's coming into year 10 this year. That's why I say that. So if you look up these stats, if you stat check me, if that's what you're trying to do, feel free. You can do that. I don't care. Actually, I kind of want you to, so you can understand that I understand the game that I'm talking about, which is the NFL. and I am a huge fanatic. I'm not a fan, I'm a fanatic. So you can go ahead and stat check me if you want. Anyway, so year 10, Geno Smith, what has he done? Well, he's generated a career QBR of 85, so he's got the lowest career QBR that I've listed so far at 85, but only by 1 point. And the fact that he's played for the New York Jets for like 6 years, 7 years, that kind of says it all, right? It's hard to win with the New York Jets. Why? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen the New York Jets be good since LaDainian Tomlinson was their starting running back, and that is the truth about that. It has been many a years since I've seen the New York Jets be competitive. So that I give him a pass on. Here's what I give him a nudge for. I give him a nudge for, you know what he did last year? He went to Seattle. He got the starting job. He took him to the playoffs. He won that division, and he made the Pro Bowl all in the same year, which is why he just signed a 3-year, $105 million contract extension. That's a butt ton of money for a short amount of time. So most of the time, anybody, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm drinking coffee. I don't know if you've been peeping me pick up my cup. I'm drinking, this is hot coffee. Normally I'm drinking tea, I will say that, but today it's coffee instead of tea. Sorry about that. So anyway, Geno Smith, after getting his ass kicked in New York Jets for 6-7 years, whatever it was, he finally decides he could, take a shot somewhere else. Seattle Seahawks, they give him a shot. He gets the starting job. He makes the Pro Bowl. He wins the division, takes him to the playoffs. Now they get put out early, and it's just something that was expected to happen because he's kind of an older guy. A decade in the league, that makes you old. I'm sorry, it's just true. Not everyone. You have to understand this. First of all, please understand this. Not everybody in the league plays for a decade. All right. For those who do, I tip my hat to you. And Geno Smith, for it taking you 10 years to get paid money, 105 mil, three-year contract extension, that is why you're number 8 on my list. And to clarify what I was saying before I took a drink of my coffee, I'm sorry. Most of the time, you only get 4 or 5 years if you're going to be a franchise guy. And if you're going to be a franchise guy, you've got to be an A-plus player. That's how you get $100 million contracts. Like Aaron Rodgers last year signed $200 million. Like, for instance, Derek Carr this year signed 4 years, $150 million. You have to be a premier winning quarterback to get that kind of money. And Geno Smith got that kind of money for a short amount of time. Why? Because he is a winning quarterback. I'm sorry it took you 10 years to get paid. I'm happy that you finally did. You are number 8 on my list, Geno Smith. So we only got 2 left. Who are they and where do they come from? Number 9, bottom of the list. Almost. Cooper Rush. Who's Cooper Rush? I'll tell you who Cooper Rush is. I didn't even know this until last year. That's why he's on my list. The guy shocked me, so I hope he shocks everybody else. Cooper Rush is the backup quarterback to Dak Prescott. So what does that mean? That means he has no division titles. Oh, by the way, Geno Smith, division titles, only one. The only title he's ever won was the one last year. Good job, Geno Smith. Anyway, backtracking. Cooper Rush doesn't have any division titles because he's essentially only been a backup quarterback for Dak Prescott. Let's be honest. Dak's a stud. Dak is in my top 10. If you've been watching and paying attention, last episode I named that. I gave you my top 10 quarterbacks of the league, and Dak was on that list. So Cooper Rush hardly ever gets to play. But when he does get to play, last year he played 5 games. Guess what? He won all 5 of them. What? I said he won all 5 of them. The year before that, he played 3 games. Guess what he did? He won all 3 of them. The year before that, played 1 game. Guess what he did? He won that one. So essentially, he's 9-0 in the league. He's undefeated. And there's teams that need quarterbacks in this league, and there's a undefeated quarterback in this league dying to get paid. Cooper Rush is that guy. So what's his career QBR? Well, I told you he's only played 9 games, so it's going to be kind of high, which could be offsetting. Or is it offsetting? Maybe it's kind of low. Maybe he's so dang good he deserves to be in the hundreds. Well, what is he? That's what we're asking. We want to know what his number is. How about Cooper Rush's number is 87 as a backup quarterback in this league. Undefeated backup quarterback with an 87 QBR. And again, they are teams in the league that need quarterbacks. I don't. I already said, the Jets should throw their name in the hat for Mariota. And that being said, I already said, well, actually, pretty much all 5 teams looking for a quarterback could go after Mariota. But, if just in case they wanted to flip the script and get someone that no one really knows about, get someone that no one even talks about, get an unknown name that could shock the world, you are talking about Cooper Rush. I'm telling you, he's awesome, he's competitive, and is undefeated as a backup quarterback in the league. So that's why he's number 9. Now, who's number 10? I'll tell you who number 10 is, and then we're going to wrap it all up. I said the top 10 most overlooked, and now we're on number 10. So that means this. There are no more quarterbacks on my list. Number 10 most overlooked quarterback in the NFL is Taysom Hill. What? Taysom Hill? He's not even really a quarterback. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what he is. He's a football player. That's what he is. He's been New Orleans Saints maybe 4 or 5 seasons. I've only been finding out about this guy for like the last 3 years, but he's been on the league or been in the league longer than that. He's caught my attention the last 2 or 3 years because of this reason and this reason only. If the New Orleans Saints needed a backup, guess what they got? Taysom Hill. Backup quarterback, I'm sorry. Now, if they needed a 4th down wide receiver in the slots in the goal line, sometimes guess what they had? Taysom Hill. Now, if they needed a wildcat package that they did a few years back, actually a little bit last year, a little bit year before, when they knew Drew was getting old, they kind of changed the game and they started getting new schemes and stuff like that. When they line up as wildcat, guess what Taysom Hill does? He lines up as their halfback. So Taysom Hill is a quarterback, he's a running back, and he is a slot receiver. All in one. He's a total package NFL superstar stud that refuses to get a starting job. I don't understand it. Maybe it's because he does too much, and maybe people look at him and are like, what is he supposed to be? We don't know. What if he's the kind of guy that can be exactly what you need him to be? If you need him a quarterback, maybe he can be a quarterback for 16 games. If you need him to be a slot receiver, maybe he can be a slot receiver for 16 games. Maybe he can be a backup running back for 16 games. Needless to say, get this. This is going to be some pretty interesting numbers that I'm about to give you. His career QBR as a quarterback. Now, when he gets into the league, or when he gets into the game, essentially as a quarterback, he has a QBR of 88. Now, if you've been listening to what I'm saying, that's the second highest QBR that I've given you for all these quarterbacks. To have an 88 QBR, pretty much a 90, I've been saying that all day, pretty much all these guys have 90s if you're rounding up. But if you're not rounding up and you're just taking the number that I give you, 88 is the second highest QBR that I've given you on the last 10 quarterbacks. Taysom Hill. I'm sorry for what New Orleans Saints have done to you. I'm sorry that you can't find a starting job. But I am not sorry that you made my top 10 most overlooked quarterbacks in the NFL. How are you doing? I think you're special. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I have named 10 quarterbacks. I've given you their career QBRs. I've let you know how many times they've won their division and if they've made Pro Bowls. So, just a quick recap. Number 1, Nick Foles, 86 QBR, 2 Super Bowl wins. Okay. Number 2, Mitchell Trubisky, 86 career QBR, 1 Pro Bowl, 1 division title. Number 3, I gave you Baker Mayfield with 0 division titles, 1 Pro Bowl, but 2 playoff appearances with the Cleveland Browns. Think about that. Like I told you, I'm 35. I've only seen 2 starting quarterbacks take Cleveland Browns to the playoffs, Jeff Garcia and Baker Mayfield. Number 4, I gave you Joe Flacco, who has a career QBR of 84, who has a Super Bowl win and has won his division twice. I've given you Marcus Mariota, career QBR of 89. He has, I'm sorry about that. Let me relight the cigarette. A career QBR of 89. Won his division 3 times. and been to 3 playoff appearances. Number 5 was Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has a quarterback rating of 91. He has the highest ranked quarterback rating on this list. Teddy Bridgewater has Super Bowl appearance and has led the league in passing yards. Number 6, Jameis Winston, with a career QBR of 88. Number 7, wait a second here. Seven was Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has a QBR of 88. Number 8 was Geno Smith with a QBR of 85. Number 9 was Cooper Rush with a quarterback rating of 85. And Taysom Hill with a quarterback rating of 88. Now, I'd like to thank everybody once again for dropping in, watching my podcast. If you like what you see and you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to cash at me, Erick Daniel Coughlin, #Coughlin Pride. Have a nice day.